Hey friend, Chris here from LogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. Welcome to video number 2 in our 8-part series all about getting into Atmos and spatial mixing in Logic. In part 1 of the series, we mostly talk gear. I gave you a really general idea of what Atmos and spatial audio are, not the most nuanced explanation around, but just something easy that we can wrap our heads around to get going. And then I shared with you the gear that I'll be using to create my own spatial mixes, starting with the headphones to work with the binaural renderers in Logic, but also how I got a speaker-based system set up in my studio, which included the audio interface, the speakers I'll be using, the stands to mount the speakers, as well as some software in between. So in today's video, we are going to have an Atmos listening party. I've chosen a couple of tracks on Apple Music that are in the Atmos format, and we're going to hear it on the speaker-based setup, and I'm just going to react. I'm going to share with you what I'm hearing, what excites me, what confuses me, just anything that comes to my mind, I want to share with you. On the off chance that you don't have the luxury to be able to check out Atmos on speakers. Perhaps you're just working with a pair of headphones in Logic. So I wanted to give you something to go by, some sort of comparison that you could rely on as you work on your own projects. Before we dig in though, a quick shout out to the sponsor of this series, which is IK Multimedia. Now again, it was incredibly important to me that if I conduct any content related to Atmos and spatial audio, that I have at my disposal not just a pair of headphones, but a speaker system as well. So I could compare and contrast and learn and share my findings with you. And IK really wanted to help out with this series that they loaned me their iLoud Immersive MTM bundle of speakers. So I could do just that. Now, the iLoud Immersive MTM bundle is exactly as it sounds. It is a bundle of 11 of the very popular iLoud MTM speakers from IK. I think this bundle is incredibly benefiting for those of us who want to get into Atmos and spatial mixing on speakers because number one, this bundle will not obliterate your bank account. It's very budget friendly for the price point and how many speakers you get and the technology involved. I think it's fantastic. Number two, these speakers sound bananas. Number three, these speakers can be easily mounted on something as simple as a microphone stand, thanks to the threading underneath the speaker built into each speaker. And they're light and they're small, so you can mount them just about anywhere. And number four, thanks to the built-in ARC technology, you can tune each speaker to your space very easily. So what you're hearing out of the speakers is something you know you can trust. I'll include a link in the description below, as well as in this video, to IK's website, all about the iLoud Immersive MTM bundle if you want to learn more. And we'll explore more about this bundle through the series. All right, with those details out of the way, let's listen to some music. Now, let me just start out by saying that the YouTube reaction video thing is not really my scene. So we're going to see how this goes. But nonetheless, I've selected 3 tracks ahead of time that I think are really great examples of why Atmos can be awesome. And I've set up a stereo pair of microphones in my space to capture the sound of these tracks through these speakers in the space. Now, obviously, it's not spatial music, but hopefully at least you'll get a sense of movement from left to right. So we're going to listen to these tracks, and I'm going to save my notes and reactions till the end of each track, just so I'm not starting and stopping the song over and over and over again. But if I have an especially insightful moment, maybe I'll pause for a second to share that thought with you in the moment. All right, so the first artist is Snarky Puppy from the album Empire Central, and the song is called Keep It On Your Mind. And I have to just, quick sidebar, for the longest time I thought Snarky Puppy was in reference to the Canadian industrial band Skinny Puppy, which is not at all the case, but that's really funny to me for some reason. Okay, so let's take a listen right now. That is super cool, man. Let me just make sure that the camera is still focused on me because it tends to fall out of focus. Okay, so I picked that track specifically because I think it shows the best of what Atmos can do. If you've listened to Atmos on headphones and maybe you've been underwhelmed, let's say, I think it's because this is just my speculation. A lot of labels at this moment, from my understanding, are just trying to like get Atmos mixes out, right? And I feel that perhaps just for the sake of time, or maybe there's not an actual invested interest, or maybe there is an invested interest. I'm just speculating. But now having the ability to be able to turn off certain speakers and only hear the rears or the surrounds or the heights. Some Atmos mixes I've listened to, it's basically a stereo mix where you just have reverb in all the other channels. There's like a little bit of height channel reverb and a little bit of the sides and rear, but it's just a stereo mix at the end of the day. And that to me is not really a good use of Atmos. I mean, if it's just going to be a stereo mix with some ambience, what's the point? Why are we moving on from stereo? I just don't see the reason. But a mix like this album from Snarky Puppy, Empire Central, it's awesome. And the reason it's awesome is because they take full use of the available extra channels. I couldn't tell you what's a 3D object because I'd have to be looking at the renderer, I think, to be able to identify that. But the guitars are on the left and right hand side. And it's like you have percussion all around you. And I loved there was a chimey moment that just kind of washes over. And also an organ that you can feel and hear modulating around you. It's just so cool. And then the crowd at the end, that was my favorite part because, and it's so weird, it's just the crowd sound, but I felt like I was in the crowd. And that's what made it so cool. And those mixes, especially for that particular mix, I especially like it because they make good use of dynamics. Things get loud, things get quiet. The loudness wars of stereo mixing for however many decades at this point, everything is just flatline, so there was no dynamics. So it's interesting to go back to a time where we have dynamics. But I've heard Atmos mixes as well. There is no dynamic. It's just like a stereo mix that's kind of flatline. Like if you listen to a lot of rock stuff, or at least if you attempt to in spatial audio, there's really no dynamics. It's still treated like it's a stereo 2-track, but with a little extra ambience, and maybe they turned it down to 18 LUFS. I don't know. But it just doesn't give that same depth. And that's what I really like about that song. So you feel the movement, you feel surrounded by instruments, you feel like things are growing and expanding and contracting, and I really like it for that reason. All right, let's listen to track number 2. So I'm trying to pick different tracks from different genres. And this is from the artist Flow. And the album is a single. And the song is called Fly Girl featuring Missy Elliott. And I got to preface, anything that even mentions Missy Elliott in any way, I have to check out because I freaking love Missy Elliott. So I immediately had to check out this track. I can see why it features Missy Elliott. Maybe you'll figure it out too. But it's like classic, we'll say late 90s, early 2000 R&B, which is something that I wasn't that into at the time, but now I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait to listen to this track. All right, let's take a listen right now.
Let's go. If you a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. See you telling me I'm pretty, but it's obvious. I don't need a man to tell me where the party is. If you a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. See you telling me I'm pretty, but it's obvious. I don't need a man to tell me where the party is. Checklist, tick it off, what you got? Pricey, so you better have a lot. A timepiece, send it on TikTok. If you can't afford my time, just watch it. Untouchable, ready to, available. And not for you, too sexy, way too fly. You get none of mine. I got plans tonight, you ain't part of them. Cause my girls are like, yeah, we all attend. No, it's ladies' night, shout to all of them. Put your hands up in the sky. If you a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. See you telling me I'm pretty, but it's obvious. I don't need a man to tell me where the party is. If you a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. See you telling me I'm pretty, but it's obvious. I don't need get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair done. All my ladies gon' get an outfit and buy a new lace wig. Back up on the market, better put in you a bid. Cause when Mrs. throw a party, you can't find nowhere to see. Booty, booty everywhere. I make all the dudes throw their money in the air. Me and all my girls, yeah, we looking Beverly. Ooh, stop the track, strike a pose, stop and steal. Wait, make it shake, all that cake, let it bake. I know you wanna see my body in a vase. Don't I still look like Halle Berry in a face? See how low we came to ride. We don't even need a guy to tell us we fly. When the party get the poppin', you know we inside. Let's go. If you a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. See you telling me you're pretty, but it's obvious. I don't need a man to tell me where the party is. If you a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair did. See you telling me you're pretty, but it's obvious. I don't need a man to tell me where the party is. Why we got 'em so fast? Beating us up and it's got 'em all stressed. Like I say, yeah, trying to compete, but it ain't a contest. Why we got 'em so fast? Girl from a different side, yeah. Like I say, yeah, trying to compete, but it ain't a contest. Flow, I like that.
I can't tell you how much I love that. That is so awesome. Okay, so there's a lot coming to my mind listening to that track. Number one, what again I like about this particular track from Flow, this Atmos version, is that they take advantage of all the channels that surround you. It's not like just everything's plugged into the front end of the room and then you get like a little, maybe a voice or a little bit of an ear candy thing over here or up here. It's you have voices all around you. And if I was listening by myself, I'd be using the Sphere application to solo like the front, left, and right, and the center and the rears so I can hear exactly what's going on. I did that before this video, and I can tell you, it's like voices the whole way around. It is so sick. And something else that I really like about this mix, as compared to other hip hop and pop, is that there is plenty of bass in the left and right channels, and maybe the center too, I don't really know, but definitely the left and right channels. So it hits. And I point that out because I think the tracks that I've been listening to from the hip hop and pop spatial audio playlists on Apple Music, I think some of these mixers are doing exactly what you're not supposed to be doing with the LFE channel, as far as I understand, which is you don't want to put all your low end in the LFE and not have it in the satellite speakers because, say, someone doesn't have a subwoofer, like me, and now all the low end is gone and I have no idea what is going on in terms of that area of the mix. And I'll go in the Apple Music app and I'll go to the settings and go to playback and I'll flip between automatic and off to flip between Atmos and stereo, and on my iPhone as well if I'm listening with headphones. Because I want a direct comparison. How does this compare against the stereo version? And in those cases of pop and hip hop, I'll flip to the stereo version on speakers and it'll be like, whoa, this got way better. So does that mean Atmos sucks? I don't think so. I think it's because all the low end or maybe the low mids, they're somewhere else. They're somewhere else, not on the satellites. And that to me is a miscalculation. So that's what I really like about this mix is that the low end is there. The low mids are there and they freaking smack. It's awesome. One thing I did notice from that mix is when Missy comes in, Missy Elliott, her cameo, it sounds a little phasey to me. And I'm going to place that responsibility on my shoulders and not necessarily theirs. Maybe it's something with my setup because let's be real, this is not a Dolby, accredited room or whatever. But in my own experience of soloing the center and the left and right channels, I know Missy's coming from definitely the left and right, but also a bit of the center. And I feel like when vocalists are spanning these three speakers, things get a little weird. Playback on speakers, at least in my room, at least with my experience, because I feel like something's getting lost here. Something's getting a little phasey. And it could be because I have the iLoud Precisions and an iLoud MTM, and maybe they're not exactly the same even with the profile. Okay, so there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of stuff going on in that flow mix, and I freaking love it. And I love that the low end is there and it's not hidden away. And that center channel thing is something of interest to me. Okay, So the last song I want to show you is another genre from a band called Turnstile from the album Glow On. And the song's called Holiday. And this song, amongst many of the other songs on the album, I think straddle that line really well, where it's like it's mostly stereo, but they take advantage of the other channels in a really enjoyable way. So let's do that right now. It's just so good, man. Man, all right. Wow, I'm like beaming. That's so cool to listen to on speakers. All right, Holiday, Turnstile. What makes it cool? Well, number one, again, I feel like they straddle the line of Atmos and stereo really well. There's a hi-hat at first on the left-hand side that's like ticking away, and then that boop, 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 that sort of synthy staccato thing going on. It's just looping around the room, and it's really cool. And then there's the gang of it's a holiday, and it happens around you, and then everything kind of shifts to the front end of the room. But you still get crashes and stuff and voices happening around you. But I understand it's like you got to straddle the line of if we, downgrade this entire mix down to just a stereo pair of speakers, but we're running an Atmos renderer, it's got to still sound good on just two speakers. So I get that completely. The other reason that I picked this track is because I believe there is nothing being sent to the LFE channel. So it's great for translation in the bottom end. So it's like, okay, this is what I have for the bottom end. I don't have to worry about the subwoofer. Again, I'm hoping to get a subwoofer soon. But it just has this like bigness at moments. And then we go to a classic, like hardcore punk rock, stereo. We're just driving through it. And then when we get to that middle section where everything kind of chills out, the guitar, there's like a clean guitar that's playing, and I feel like I'm enveloped in a bubble of that guitar. It doesn't feel like it's happening from left or right, or it just feels like it's just like this. On top of that, it's just a sick song. I mean, what can you do? It's such a good song. So we'll dig into the difference between speakers and headphones in a future video, but I just want to share with you what it's like listening on speakers. It's awesome. It's so much fun. And it really gives a great sense of why Atmos can be really awesome as a creative format. So I'll see you in part 3 next week in our Getting into Atmos with Logic Pro series. Talk to you later. Take care.